let's start at least, and then I'll come back and have a
Sure,
discussion.
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
Sure.
Cool.
So, sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
So welcome to Decoding COVID, one of its kind medical hackathon. So, this is for the participants. I'm sure you must have read Sir's bio when you registered for the event. Founder of micelabs, investor for frugal startups, a force for social change through startups like BiBox and Avaz, and author of several books. The list goes on. Yet yesterday night, I hit a complete blank. So, how should I introduce Sir? It definitely wasn't for the lack of things to speak about. A person of Sir's status must have heard all kinds of introductions extolling Sir's virtues. I could think of nothing new for Sir to hear. And thus, like the modern millennial looking for information on a person, I decided to access Sir's social accounts. I opened up Sir's Twitter. So on Sir's Twitter,
Can't
I
open
saw
up my
his...
LinkedIn anymore. I've been kicked out of LinkedIn. You know that, right? My LinkedIn had a lot more stuff than my Twitter does. My Twitter stuff is relatively new. But so part of the reason I also do that, very frankly, let's skip all the introduction stuff. I always think introduction should be given after the talk, at which point people say, "Kya yaar, fukad ka bore kar diya. I could have done better things with my life." So let's just move on. And
Okay, sir.
people
Sure,
come
sir.
not to listen to what the speaker has done or whatever. They want to see, okay, what am I going to get out of this presentation? And I'm a big believer. Presentations need to be entertaining and they need to add value to whoever is attending them. I mean, you're taking 1 hour of your Sunday. You could have been doing better things. Of course, you could have been hanging out with your girlfriend anymore or boyfriend, whatever it is. But I'm sure there would have been other things you could do. And you're choosing to spend it listening to this. So, straightforward enough. I think, I used to be a medical student many years ago, I know. But some things haven't changed and some things have. And that's some of the stuff we need to talk about. Why has the pace of change been so slow and what can we do in order to increase some of it? Couple of things. You don't need to take notes during this presentation. I'm going to request the SAMSA team to send the entire presentation to you. So it'll be available on the SAMSA website or Facebook or wherever you want. Guys, please share. The only request I have with everyone is we all have stories to tell. Sometimes we underestimate our ability to tell the stories. And sometimes we think, who's going to be interested in my story? Kya badi baat hai? And I think that in itself is a mistake. The more the stories you tell, the better you will get at storytelling. And all of us have something unusual, whether you're you sweep the streets, you're a garbage worker, you're a CEO of a company. There is something which has happened, which is special. And I think the one thing we can do, and the one thing the internet allows us to do, is to be generous about sharing. So that's the request. People are very curious what it takes to be a doctor. What do medical students do? How did you manage when you saw your first dead body? I mean, you've even forgotten about that, unfortunately. And the advantage of sharing stories now is you'll have great stories to share with your grandchildren. Okay, so I think this is something, so I'm going to basically break this up into two parts. The fact that you're medical students and you've got so much on your plate that the last thing you need to sit and worry about is innovation. Exam to pass karne de, postgraduate seat to milne de, innovation dekhenge. And I completely get that. I'm not saying no. And if you say being a doctor is not easy, neither is being a medical student. And in fact, that's a big cause of concern, all these regulations, what have I let myself in for? And the trouble with a medical college seat is it's all one way. Once you're in, it's very hard to get out because even if you do, people say, kya gada tha, fukad ki seat waste kar di. Even if you hate what you're doing, you hate your teachers, you hate everything. And, a lot of times we are very young when we get into medical college. We really don't know what we're signing up for. And you're so pleased. Hey, I'm such a smart guy. I got the marks. I got in. Of course, I'm going to take this. See what a great college I am in. And then sometimes you kind of, especially at night when you can't go to sleep, or you read about some article about some doctor being locked up by some judge, or hospitals being broken up, or people dying of COVID when they were medical students. Lots of things you worry a little bit. But I agree with you, it's not easy. But the reality is it's never been easy. Nothing is ever easy. And it's a question of how you look at it. It's actually, you get the opportunity to make changes. And that's what I'm going to focus on. This is where a lot of doctors think, just too many of us. And you're so busy competing. And that's something we've done all our lives, haven't we? We're very good at competing with each other. Very good at getting more marks than everyone else, having secret clinics, doing learning how to crack exams, all the other stuff, none of which is clinically important, but we do that. And there's some things I'm going to focus on. And one of them is some of the stuff which people don't teach us. And the first is ethics. You might wonder why. And in one sense, really, by the time you've joined college, if your ethics aren't sorted out, they're never going to be sorted out. And really teaching you the right thing to do is something your parents and your grandparents instill in you. But the problem is, it's so easy to take shortcuts. It's so easy to cheat. It's so easy to see people do wrong. And then I strongly recommend don't get misled and blindsided by all that stuff. Find one good person whom you can trust, whom you can honor. And often, your mentors could be books. And that's perfectly fine. And, books have stood the test of time and that message is timeless. But ideally, find someone in real life you can reach out to. At least you won't get so disillusioned when you hear so much rubbish. Okay. Guess what? I have, okay, sorry. Okay, this should be fine. So, and I think we've all aware of this. It's like, sometimes you wonder and you hear horror stories from your seniors who started practice about how corrupt everything is. And it's like, what can I do if everyone else does it? My professor does it, my senior does it. This is the only way things are done. The reality is that's not. And there's no reason why you need to do the same kind of rubbish everyone does. I think this is the other thing. And, you won't get books on empathy, but I think it's important. Actually, far more important than empathy is what I think is called compassion. And if you're a kind doctor, don't be a doctor in the first place, really. There's so many hajar things you can do, earn more money, do lots of stuff. And I think the magic sauce of being a doctor is you can be kind to people one-on-one and they appreciate it. And the emotional income you can get is far more than it. People will bow down to politicians and bureaucrats and administrators, but they're really bowing down to that chair which those guys are occupying. Whereas when you get them better and you see the smile on their face and they say, thank you, doctor, they're thanking you as an individual. May not mean anything to you if you don't want it to, but honestly, that is priceless. And I think everyone should watch Munna Bhai every once in a while. It'll teach you what not to do and equally what to do. And, before you became a doctor, don't forget you were a human. And you will always remain a human. So please don't lose your humanity no matter what. Sometimes as doctors, we tend to get a little arrogant. I know so much. We get irritated with patients. Arey, ek page Google search kar diya, to usko kya lagta hai? Don't do that. The guy is sick, worried, not sure if you have time or energy for him. Give him a break. This, I think, is important, and people sometimes forget. What does equity mean? Equity means equality, which means you treat everyone the same, not just the politicians who come to you and, not just the VIP. Everyone should be a VIP. I think that's the only way to deal with this. But the trouble is we've let ourselves get cut off. And partly that's the way the education system is spent. If all day long you're either in the library or in the ward or in the clinic or in the classroom or in the canteen, you don't really get a time to do anything else and you cut yourself off from the rest of the world. Big mistake. Don't do that. You need to understand and spend some time talking to your patients. They've all got interesting stories to share, not just about when did your pain start, what makes it better, what makes it worse. And the great thing is they'll tell you things you'll never get to hear otherwise. So think about that. No one likes this PSM or preventive and social medicine and community medicine, but actually it's one of the most important things. I think especially if nothing else, COVID has taught you that you can't afford to skip this particular chapter in your book. And I think part of the problem is we're great at providing one-on-one care, and that's important, but you can't afford to lose sight of the big picture. And there are two things I want to emphasize. What does positive dev mean? It means we're so focused on what is broken and what is wrong, and we're so whining and whinging and complaining so-and-so is bad. And the positive deviants are the guys who are doing a good job in spite of the fact that the odds are stacked against them. Learn from them. They should be your role models. And in spite of everything, they can do it. And that's why we admire people like Dr. Albert Schweitzer, that, born privileged and yet chose to, go to Africa and do something just out of the goodness of his heart. And what are upstreamists? I think part of the problem is when you start specializing. So for example, for an IVF specialist, every patient is infertile until proven otherwise. which means we kind of forget that, most people happily have babies in the bedroom without any assistance from us, which means anytime you see a report, it's always, this is the reason for the infertility. It could be a red herring, could be irrelevant. And that's something to remember. Remember the big picture. Equally important, your job is not to fix problems one-on-one. What does upstream mean? Upstream means is that if people are falling into the river and dying and you're having to save them after drowning, doing CPR, you got to find out why they're falling into the river, which means you have to go upstream, and then you'll figure out, the barrier which prevented people from jumping into the river accidentally has broken down. So if you fix that particular barrier, that fence, you'll have much more impact than you would otherwise. Honestly, if cardiologists just stopped doing cardiology and focused on educating people to stop smoking, they would actually save more lives. Doesn't say much about cardiologists, but never mind. Economics, money, big issue. No one wants to talk about it, but it's important. It's the elephant in the room. But one thing I will emphasize, doctors are daily wage earners. You earn more than enough. I'm not complaining about that, but the fact still remains is that you're dependent on that, and that's not great. And I'll tell you why. And that's why passive income is so great. And that's the reason why, I lead a free life. I don't have to give a single cut or a kickback or a commission to anyone. Patient bhejna hai to bhej, acha doctor, nahi bhejna hai, baad mein ja. Otherwise, if this was my only source of income, I would have to bow down and kowtow and, that other IVF specialist is giving a 50% cut, मैं 60% cut दूंगा. बस patient bhej, नहीं तो मेरे बच्चे भूख से मर जाएंगे. All that kind of justification and rationalization. And fortunately, I don't need to do that because I've invested in the stock market. So enough passive income. So if patients come, I enjoy seeing them, happy to treat them. But even if they don't, my life doesn't end. So I think that's important. But don't compromise your ethics just for the sake of your income. At the end of the day, you need to live with yourself. Education, again, big problem. It's like, you've got so much stuff. And, I don't think I would ever get into medical college today. I've seen some of those exams, and I'm sure I wouldn't even get into postgraduate street. They ask you arcane, irrelevant, pointless questions. Doesn't make any sense. I guess they have to do that because you have 1,000 bache hai and you only have 10 seats. So how do you separate? But they use exactly the wrong metric. Anyway, so you have all that stuff. And like I tell everyone, the problem, of course, is that half of the stuff which they teach you will be wrong, but you don't know which half. And that's why it's so important to become self-learners and, figure out stuff for yourself. And that's the great thing about the internet. And honestly, you guys should be able to teach your professors and teachers and take pride in that. And good teachers will take pride in the fact that you can teach them because your ability to remain up to date with a lot of stuff is far more than theirs. And that's why don't say, oh, this was in my book or this was it, or this is what my professor taught me. Never good enough. There's a difference between eminence-based education and evidence-based medicine. And you need to remember the difference. When I talk about education, this is what I talk about, using information therapy to put patients first. And I'll tell you why. If you can educate your patients, this obviously means that you know so much about what you're doing, that you can simplify it, you can get rid of the jargon, and you can answer the basic questions which your patients ask. And of course, the guy who doesn't know anything will either put patients in their place or start using jargon like, oh, you have an SVT and you have this, that, and the other. And, it's easy to mystify everything else to prove that you're the expert, but actually that just means that you're not very sure or confident and you're trying to conceal your lack of knowledge. This, of course, we know. And I think this is the one thing I would tell. In fact, I would insist that every SAMSA member, one of the preconditions for joining is, of course, pay the fees, but have your own website. And I'll tell you why. Because this gives you so much amplification, leverage, voice. Doctors are scared, guys, but how many people can you interact with in your clinic? 10, 20, 30, maybe if you're a medical professor, maybe more. But obviously your impact is limited and people still trust doctors. And if you're generous and you're willing to share how much you know and how much you have learned, do this for selfish reasons also, because it'll give you digital, valuable real estate, which will remain with you all your life. Even when you want to apply for a job or become a professor or start this is always, it'll discipline you to look at life from a patient's point of view, because your patients will be on site and they'll ask you questions. And more importantly, it'll force you to remain up to date with technology. When I started, I used to know HTML. That's irrelevant now. But and I can't do Laravel and all the other stuff, but I can still manage WordPress, and I don't need to do it anymore, but it's helpful to at least understand what's happening, and this helps to keep me up to date. So I think every doctor needs their own website. This is the one thing we need less of. Guys, please. The trouble is we take undue credit. Patient gets better, got better because of me. Patient got worse in spite of me. Honestly, trust me, it's often the other way around. Sometimes patients get better in a few. But anyway, so just understand that, don't take credit for everything which happens in life. This I think is important, and that's what I call the trust equation. And I'll spend a little bit more time on this. It's really simple. Why would patients trust you? And actually, patients don't trust doctors. So half my first consultation is explaining to patients why I'm trustworthy and why I'm not the rest of the medical profession, because it's our medical profession which has actually let patients down and let ourselves down. By not stopping some of the corrupt malpractices, which open secrets, everyone knows they're happening. And yet we kept quiet. And we kept quiet, and we kept quiet. So that at one time it used to be 5% of doctors were corrupt, then it became 10%, 50%, now it's 80%, maybe more in certain towns. So obviously we've lost all our moral authority. We can't police our own colleagues. Why would anyone trust us? And so now it's doctor is crooked until proven otherwise. I really wouldn't blame the patient for that. And actually you guys have a chance to fix some of this stuff by explaining your perspective, where you come from. So please take advantage of this. And you can do stuff which honestly your professors, teachers, practitioners can't, because you have the time, you have the energy. And at this stage in your life, you're still empathetic. Medical college hasn't squeezed all that compassion out of you. Unfortunately, it will at some point. Hopefully not, but there is really a risk that it will. And if you remember this, I think it'll help. So again, simple. Credibility means when you say something, doctors are not trusted anymore. Patients will Google. I'm guaranteeing you that right now. So can he trust what you say? And ideally, what you should do is refer him to your website and provide links to other websites. So you can say, yeah, jo bol raha hai, sach bol raha hai, sensible hai. That increases the trust far more and saves you a lot of time. Trust me, then you don't have to go through it all again. You can say, okay, before coming for the consultation, go visit the website. After the consultation, tell your sister-in-law who's in USA who wants to find out dhang se kar raha hai ki nahi, ki doctor gada hai ki nahi. She can go to the website. So many things. What does reliability mean? It means that if you tell the patient, I'm going to phone you with your lab result tomorrow, do you do that or not? Can he trust that, when you say something, he will actually do it? And if you can't do it, then will you respond to him and why not, and then fix the problem? Intimacy. Are you interested in him as a person, or are you just interested in him as a uterus where I'm going to do the surgery and remove the uterus? Sometimes we get so focused on, our little technical expertise that we forget that there's a human being who has this. And self-orientation means, are you going to worry more about how much money you can make off him, or are you going to care about him first? So honestly, I would, even if I had to do this all over again, I had a second life, I still want to be a doctor. But it's great. It nurtures you literally. It's, you feel good about it. And I think part of the problem is when a patient says thank you to you, enjoy that moment. You don't get that moment in many other professions, trust me. People, when you go to a politician, he doesn't trust you because, he knows that you have an axe to grind, you want a favor. And that doesn't happen when you're dealing with a doctor. And like I said before, if you don't worry so much about your financial income, the guy who came last in class, who passed because he used to cheat from your papers, who's now finished his BCom LLB and is now driving a Mercedes, and you're still stuck on your two-wheeler, trust me, your emotional income is still better than his. So that should be fine. And if you value that emotional income, you'll be sorted. Again, if I had to simplify everything, I would just keep on reminding everyone that it's only your patients who count. Everything else is secondary. Never forget that. And everything I've said, we have this website. I'll share the link. It's called The Best Medical Care. And this book is called Successful Private Practice. It should have been called Successful Medical Practice because it applies whether you're a government bureaucrat or you're in the medical services or whatever else. And you can get all this information. As you can see, there are lots of books. There's one for patients, there's one for doctors, and wrote the books a long time ago, but interestingly, nothing has changed. How could it possibly change? Doctors are doctors, patients are patients, we're all human beings. The basics don't change. Technical minutiae and stuff will, I mean, when we started, we couldn't do ICSI, and today I can do ICSI, but Everything else is still the same. Okay, guys, have you guys gone to sleep or we're still okay? How do I make out? Okay, I think this is the one thing I really don't like about this thing, because you never know what people are doing. But I'm assuming you're still awake. I used to tell Krishna, I used to give chocolates and candies and ask questions during a real life thing so you can make out. And instead of candies, I would have those little spitballs. So if anyone is sleeping, I wasn't very good, so I'd mostly end up hitting the other guy, who would then nudge the fellow who was sleeping, whatever. But at least they all woke up. Here, I'm not sure whether or not or what. But so coming back again, so I think it's important. You need to study what's in your textbooks, but all that is stuff which has happened in the past. And the reality is, changes occur. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be a lot of stuff which is just not there in your textbooks and will never be there. And how do you manage some of these things? And don't expect your teachers to teach you, please. There's no subject called putting patients first, no subject called empathy. Maybe someone will talk about it, maybe they won't. And this is stuff you need to figure out for yourself. I enjoyed doing this because no one really understood what an angel investor was. I think people still don't understand what an angel investor is. I'll come back to that. But why did we want to start off in hospitals? Why does innovation have to start? And the tragedy is, it used to once upon a time. I don't know whether you heard these stories about this cardiologist who did the first cardiac catheterization, and he used himself as a guinea pig. He actually put a wire into his own heart to see whether it would work or not. Was guts. I'm sure I won't have the guts to do that. You've never done it before, but just imagine the amount of confidence. And I'm not telling you need to catheterize yourself, but the point is that that's where the patients are and that's where the doctors are. And in medical, innovation doesn't start from the bedside. Why do you expect some engineer sitting in IIT who's done some model on AI or ML or whatever it may be, and will think he knows what patients and doctors need? Boss, we deal with them, we know. So why hospitals? And why JJ Hospital especially? Because there's cross-discipline collaboration. Everything's under one roof. Your patients are there, your senior doctors are there, and you can all get together. You can invite guys from IT. And let me tell you one thing, the biggest problem, a lot of these guys, whether it's BETIC or whatever, actually envy you. And they sometimes have an inferiority complex because how hard it is to get permission to even get into JJ Hospital. Ask Krishna if you want, but इससे permission मांगो, assistant dean को मिलो, फिर ये badge निकालो, फिर नहीं अभी office बंद हो गया है, कल आओ, ये मेरा ward है, तुमने professor से permission, अरे नहीं dean ने permission दिया, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, मैं head of medicine है, मेरे से मांगो, head of medicine ने दिया तो क्या हुआ? I am anyway. So just 50 different things, and the great thing is when you're working in a hospital, you don't have to worry about all that. Huge privilege. But for me, the most important thing is you can talk to patients directly and you can talk to the caregivers. Such a valuable source of insights. We are actually so myopic. We think everything which happens to a patient happens within the four walls of a clinic or a hospital. Patients have a life far more interesting than ours often, which happens outside the hospital. And this gives you a chance. And, my aunt, for example, just had a stroke. And I realized how terrible bedpans are. And, I thought about it. I mean, why do they need to be made of steel or plastic? Why can't we make them 50 different things? And no one's ever bothered. So, but the opportunities are still there. As I said before, you can't just use your patients as guinea pigs. That's what you have senior doctors. And senior doctors are great because they've traveled the world. They've been doing this for 10 years. They understand what patients need. They understand what their things are. And they can come out and say, hey, can you help me do this? And, that's such a great partnership. I'm sure you've all heard this, so I'm not belaboring the issue, but I love the fact that this has a process, that you first don't start with a bright idea. It's okay to have bright ideas. I have lots of bright ideas. Anyone wants any, just reach out to me and I'm happy to share them with you. But a bright idea is important, but it's often neither necessary nor sufficient. But you first define what the needs are, then you design prototypes. And that's the reason we love the work which Krishna is doing at micelabs. You actually get to tinker with your hands. A lot of guys would have been great engineers, but they could both IIT and medicine, though they got admission into both, so they had to pick and choose. But they still want to be able to tinker. And, the opportunities are here. I mean, whether it's 3D printing or whatever else. And then the great thing is after you've tinkered, you can take it to the bedside, see if it works, doesn't work. The nurse will tell you this is stupid, it's too bulky, it broke, whatever else it is. And then, of course, deploying in the market is a long way off, but this at least is the big picture, the roadmap. I think this is important. And I'm not trying to make you guys engineers. There's no need to do that. we both come with different worldviews, and it's completely important. We treat patients one at a time. We don't want to fiddle around with patients, and you want to try a new method of removing the appendix in the middle of an operation, do you? You don't want surgeons who are cowboys. So you have to be conservative. And engineers are completely different. That's what I like about engineers. They don't just fix one patient at a time, and then a second patient at a time, and then a third patient at a time. And then that's great for the doctor, because the more patients he fixes one at a time, the more the money he makes. And he never needs to learn anything new, because he's been doing this for so many years, so he's an expert at it. Engineers don't take that approach. Hey, is there a better way of doing it? I think we need to respect that. So doctors as entrepreneurs, if I were younger, this is what I would have chosen. But anyway, I think we need to understand that the trouble with all this startup press and media is it's all skewed and rubbish. They only talk about the success stories. They don't talk about 99 failures. Your chances of failing are much higher, and that's fine. You'll learn a lot is all I say. But it'll teach you to bounce back from some of your failures. And trust me, you most likely won't make money. But whether you do or not, you'll learn so much about yourself, how to manage a team, how to talk to investors, how to manage accounts, how to manage the world, that will make the world a much more interesting. There's only one ingredient for success, and this is true whether you're an engineer, an entrepreneur, or a doctor, or a medic, just learn. But the first thing I put is to sell, learn to sell stories. This is true for doctors too. You may not realize that. And lots of doctors do it very subtly. So, when a patient comes in the consultation, the first story they say, I saw a patient just like you 2 weeks ago who was nearly dying, and I did this great dramatic surgery, and now he's absolutely fine. Or, why do you think doctors have photographs of all the celebrities on their wall? Because in one sense, they're telling you the story. Sorry, Aishwarya Rai is very old. I guess I'm dating myself. I don't know who the new actresses are. I apologize. But whatever. So, tu kis khet ki mooli hai? Agar Aishwarya mujhko trust kar sakti thi, to of course you can. Anyway, so yes, but I think the important thing is to lead a team. Not easy at all, because part of the problem is the doctors, you think, I know everything. I don't want to learn anything from anyone. Then anyone who doesn't agree with me is by definition an idiot. But so hard. I mean, you need to actually do stuff with your hand. Very easy. As an angel investor, I can sit in my air-conditioned room and tell Krishna, do this and Krishna, do that. I don't need to do it. But obviously, when you start up from scratch, I finished doing all this is my point. Be patient and persistent. These things take time. The best way is to actually work in a startup. You learn very, very quickly, and you can learn from other people's mistakes. Hey, someone is raising hands. What does that mean? I apologize, guys. Am I supposed to do anything, or can I just continue with my presentation?
Sir, you can continue with the presentation. Raising hands, I think the participants would have questions, so we can keep it for the end of the session.
Okay, fine.
If
all
that's
right,
okay.
Fine. So there, yeah, you can
okay,
put that. Okay. So then I'll carry on, guys. And again, when I say play to your strengths, you can't be good at everything. That goes without saying. So I'm terrible at the nitty-gritty, but I like the big picture. But then if I want to run a startup, I need to partner with someone who loves doing the nitty-gritty. Stuff I hate and therefore do badly, he enjoys, and vice versa. So we make a good team. And the problem is doctors don't always make very good entrepreneurs. Part of it is because we want to be first, and we're not good at, we don't even bother to listen to our juniors, our nurses, we diss them. Let me ask you one, am I allowed to ask questions? I'm going to ask the question and I want someone to answer it. Does anyone know what medical pimping means? Just put it in the comment section, okay? It's called medical pimping. Anyway, we'll come back to that. It's a form of abuse of medical students and why they end up abusing seniors. And you guys aren't allowed to Google and try to find out what the answer is. Huh? That's cheating. Anyway, so everyone wants to be the captain of the ship. So you don't want to listen to anyone. I'm the boss, everyone. And then you end up micromanaging. You don't know how to delegate. You don't allow your team to make mistakes, and therefore they remain stuck where they are. You remain stuck where you are, and you never get a chance to learn from them. And part of the problem is we're not allowed to do things with our hands. All we do is regurgitate facts again and again. That's not great. We don't have enough role models, not enough success stories. And the reality is it's much easier to just start a clinic or join a job or whatever else. I think these are lost opportunities. Again, big problem. Everyone comes up with this bright idea. Dr. Malpani, I have an idea. Please give me $1 million because so-and-so raised $1 million in Silicon Valley based on a pass. I have lots of ideas. I wish someone would give me money for my ideas. And when I say dime a dozen, I'm not dissing the idea. Please understand that. Everything starts with an idea. No one's saying no. But just starting is not enough. Ideas are necessary, but they're not sufficient. And honestly, the more the ideas, the better for you, because you'll realize that your initial ideas were such crap that, and the only way you'll realize that is that you'll realize that quality actually is proportional to quantity for certain things. And this is one of them. And biggest problem, I share my idea with an angel investor, he'll tell his cousin to start a startup and his cousin will make so much money and I will be left behind. Forget it. We have more than enough ideas on our plate, and the only way to improve your ideas is to ask for criticism. And that will actually help you improve. And if your idea is so easy to copy, then, once you start, people will copy it anyway. Trust me. So, what's the big deal? It's the implementation, which is your magic sauce. Lots of books for entrepreneurs. Again, I'll share some websites with you, and ideally you should be reading these books, reviewing these books, sharing what you learn with them from others. They're often much more exciting than your medical books, and will tell you there's a whole wide world out there. So coming back to angel investing. So how do I decide check kisko likhu, whom do I give it? And I wish if someone sold me a crystal ball like that, I'd buy it. Trust me, there isn't one. And therefore, this is what we're forced to do, what we call our due diligence. Is this guy honest? Is he going to shaft me? Paisa leke bhag jayega? Kya karega? Who knows? And obviously, when entrepreneurs are selling you on their ideas and, they want your funding, they're on their best behavior. But, who knows what they're going to be after they've got the money. No one does, trust me. But it's not a roulette game. Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes it's a gamble, but it's a little more scientific, or we at least pretend to ourselves that's a little more scientific discipline like that. Funding is a big issue. And please, for heaven's sake, take the time and trouble to read books on how to run a startup, how to fund. I'm not going to go into any of these details, but each of these things could actually be a separate talk by itself. And what does negotiation mean? Who values it? People have all kinds of concerns. And honestly, I find the more immature the entrepreneur who's never bothered to do any reading, the worse it is to handle and deal with them. And I'd rather not. If you can't even take the time and trouble to read a book to find out the right way to run a startup, how do you have the right to ask me for my money? I'm not going to sit and babysit you and handhold you and tell you what the right way is. So figure it out for yourself. Legalese, lots of it. And, there's tons of stuff I can't understand. And fortunately, I don't have to, because I have a family office who does it. Reading medical textbooks put you to sleep. Trust me, reading law textbooks will put you to sleep faster. Try it out and see. I mean, they think they use English, but sometimes I wonder. So anyway, there's a lot of legalese, whether it's shareholder agreements, all that stuff. All I'm saying is find a good lawyer. A good lawyer is a startup-friendly lawyer, someone who puts your needs first and someone who will not talk down to you. Someone who will understand first principles and will help you to make sense of what's happening. So when people pitch to me, when do I say no? I say no most of the time. And in a way, I'm happy because they make my life easier. So easy to say no to some people, I can then spend my energy doing more interesting and valuable things like giving talks to SAMSA, right? Sorry, kidding. So anyone who comes to me with only an idea, no implementation, maaf boss. To khud ka paisa nahi dalne wala, to main dalne wala. They have these lovely hockey stick, but I can also do Excel and manipulate and come up with all kinds of fancy projections. No competition only means two things. Either your idea is so crappy that no one else wants to do it, or that you've not bothered to do your homework and you not even realize what the other competition is. So, and if you don't have skin in the game, skin in the game doesn't mean, I didn't take a job and I forego my salary, all that good stuff. Skin in the game means show me how committed you are, because, and I've heard this often enough, तेरा तो क्या जाता है, तू तो rich investor है यार, तू तो 10 कंपनी में डालेगा, ये तो मेरी एक ही स्टार्टअप है. सही बात है, लेकिन मेरे को पैसे ऊपर से नहीं टपके हैं. This is also blood, sweat and tears. And if your father will not give you a 1 lakh check to fund you, your father who loves you, trusts you, has brought you up, you want me to sign a 1 crore check? Give me a break. Anyway, I'm just saying, so I'm not a cynical guy. Trust me. I mean, I heard lots of people say lots of things about me, but I always tell people the fact I still sign checks means, of course, I'm optimistic and positive. I'd have stopped a long time ago and gone and retired in some, I won't say Hawaiian island, but anyway. And anyone who uses too much buzzwords, I may be an idiot, but I'm not such a big idiot that I can't figure out stuff myself. And you use these words, I'll buy a book, read. And then if I can easily, I mean, my bullshit detector is reasonably okay. And if you do that and then I catch you out, I'll lose all respect for you and then I won't engage with you anymore. Trust. So do I say no all the time? No, we fund people. I need to fall in love. Sounds very emotional, but a lot of angel investing is emotional. I'll come back to that. I look for what I call a learning on investment. I want someone who will make me smarter than what I was. I'm very happy to fund non-medical startups because, you know, my ability to learn more in unrelated fields like fintech or AI or, you know, anything practically is much better. And honestly, sometimes I think I'm not very good with health tech investing because partly the entrepreneur feels, "Arey yaar, Dr. Malpani ko to sab kuch malum hai." He asks me for what to do. How the hell do I know what to do? I'm an IVF specialist who practices in a clinic in Colaba. I don't understand what other doctors' problems are. I don't understand what other patients' problems are. It's your job to figure them out. So don't get misled by what I say. The three things which we think we bring to the table and we want entrepreneurs to bring to the table: integrity, non-negotiable. If I don't trust you, then, you know, you'll be the first person to cheat me. Curiosity. Figure out stuff. That's half the fun of living. You know, if you want to stop figuring out stuff, you might as well be dead. And humility. You're going to be wrong often, and there's nothing wrong with being wrong. And the oftener you're wrong, the more often you will end up being right. Nothing wrong. Willing to teach and learn, definitely. I hope to learn from you, and I think there are certain things I can teach you. If nothing else, how to do the right thing by your customers, how, governance is, what you need to do about investing, what investors are looking for, stuff like that, how to handle your employees, how to pamper your employees so they will pamper your customers. And the one thing, I don't care whether you've got an MBA or an MBBS or a dropout, or you've gone to IIT or you've got a, whatever. You have paying customers, boss, that means much more to me. Show me your bank account and that means much more to me than whatever certificate, degree or diploma which you have. So our process is simple. We back the entrepreneur, and I have a soft corner for failed entrepreneurs simply because they made so many mistakes. They won't repeat the same mistakes. So women entrepreneurs, definitely. I think you have to be twice as smart to succeed as a woman, to get half the credit. And yet, in spite of that, they do that. And, my wife's not around. Trust me, this is as true for her as for any other woman I know. And I have a soft corner for social impact investing because, I don't do this for the money anymore. And I think your ability to create a change in people's lives is huge. And I don't care about the domain. I tell people, "Musko kuch samajhta nahi hai." You're the expert. It's your domain. It's your startup. You need to educate me and figure out stuff. Signing the check is the fun bit. That's the only thing you read about on all the press. I don't sign checks in $1 or whatever. But the hard work only starts after signing the check. And I think this is the value we tell people we will bring to the table. We will be actively engaged. We will help you when you're lost. We're happy for you when you're succeeding. So please share your successes. And if you're in a tight spot, don't hide from us. We have your back. We've trusted you. We've given you money. We're happy to help you continue to succeed. And, obviously make sure your accounts are in order. You're filing all your returns, income tax, company registrar, all that good stuff. But we will not interfere. If you want help, ask us, but we will not kind of say, what you're doing. We trust you. Some of the guys we funded, we have a website which has more information. And the way we support our startups is, if they're doing well, which means two things we look at: attitude and performance. Performance is, have they met the milestones? And attitude is, are they treating us with respect? Then we continue funding for the next round. We're available, we're accessible. We want to be the cheerleaders. And we're happy to help them. And we're happy to coach and mentor. And there are bad days. Trust me, a lot of the COVID, sorry, excuse me guys. A lot of the startups had problems during the bad days, but we have your back. We're there to support you, so don't worry. What about angel investing? Again, seems very esoteric. I think we have another 10 minutes. So principles are, we don't know which is going to succeed. People don't understand this. Remember one thing, even VCs who have been for donkey's years, have far more money, have a much larger team, still cannot identify which startup is going to succeed. Startups are called complex adaptive systems. No one knows which is going to work, which is not going to work. So we use a portfolio approach. You back multiple people. When I say the power law, this basically means that out of 10, one will succeed. And if I knew which one that was, I'd be a very, very rich guy. by now, but no one is. And again, it's, I tell angel investors, you'll read about Uber mein itna paisa banaya, that's all pipe dreams. It's not a get rich scheme. Startups take time to mature. It's helpful to read. Just like we tell entrepreneurs to read, we do a lot of reading, and joining a network helps. I enjoy being an investor because, a lot of my colleagues who are now 6-year-old doctors just keep on whining and whinging about how terrible life is, how no one respects senior doctors, how administration doesn't care, how all the money they make goes on giving cuts and kickbacks to everyone else, how all these new doctors are now undercutting them, how patients go to Dr. Google and ask them stupid, irritating questions, which, all kinds of things, just one complaint after another. And I think part of that happens when you start getting a little bit older. When I was young, in my days, today's students are all idiots. They just want shortcuts. They just want Twitter and mobiles all the time. They don't want to work hard. Anyway, I'm sure you've all heard it before, so I'm not going there. But I like being an investor because it makes me optimistic. And, this way I get to connect with bright young guys who are ambitious, who want to change the world for the better. So some of their optimism rubs off onto me. I think I can help them do a better job. I've made lots of mistakes in my life. Hopefully I can teach them not to make them. And honestly, I think it helps me. As long as I keep on learning new stuff, I'll remain young. I think doctors make good investors because I think you can be empathetic, not just for your team members, which is critically important, because if you care for your team members, your employees, they'll care back for you and they'll care for your customers. You can be empathetic towards your users, care about them, you give them a feeling. You have that domain expertise in healthcare, which is great. And your patients can become great brand ambassadors because you have goodwill in the community, and you can then talk to senior professors and ask them for support and help. And the reality is every doctor who runs a clinic is an entrepreneur. But this often becomes a two-way street, because if you then become an angel investor, it also actually helps you run your clinic a little better, because then you understand, what a balance sheet is and what EBITDA is and what accruals are and what accounts receivable. Doctor को समझता भी नहीं है सब. एक तो सब cash practice करते हैं, so they don't bother to account for it. And anyway, सब कुछ CA करता है. Anyway, so I think these are important skills which everyone needs to learn. That's of course the happy ending if the right investor finds the right entrepreneur. Lots more information. These are our websites. Like I said, we were sharing the presentation, which you can always go through this in more detail. A little bit about me. I've been on a board of a company run by Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, which actually started from 0 people 10 years ago, and now is 5,000 people. You should check out the website. They're doing some great stuff. It's mostly in the US. I mean, the employees are in India, but the doctors whom they help are in the US. And I wish someone would say, what the hell, these guys are making money in the US. We should offer the same service to India. Please do that, guys, and ask me, and I'll be happy to fund you. Then, neither of my daughters is doing medicine. And then, of course, it's like, daddy da kuch samajhta nahi hai. I've done an MBA from Stanford. He's just an idiot who's done his MBA from some GS Medical College or something else. And then, you need to keep up with your kids. So at least, I understand what she's talking about. So now I do it through Mumbai Angels, do it through my family office. And it's fun. It's fun because now I actually have an excuse to read about anything which interests me. I have an excuse to read about blockchain and Bitcoin and corporate governance and Theranos or anything else, because, hey, this is information I can use with my founders. It's not just sterile information. Hey, sorry guys, I should have removed that second line. Yeah, but I'll say share my experiences on Twitter. Have 10,000 followers today and we'll get to 100,000 followers. No, sorry, kidding apart. But I learn a lot, and the world is a fascinating place. I think this is important as you grow older. It's called the T-shaped model of life. You get a lot of expertise in the vertical stem of the T. As an IVF specialist, trust me, been there, done that, very unlikely that I'm going to see anyone with a problem I haven't seen before. And usually anytime someone asks me a question, I do an FAQ and post it on my blog and my website, so that the next time a patient has that same question, I don't have to answer it. I can just tell them, go read it for yourself. And then you start applying that same stuff, because there's lots of similarities. Ultimately, humans are humans. That's our website, which is malpani.com. And as I've said before, we want to be founder friendly. We think we're not doing entrepreneurs a favor by signing them a check. They're doing us a favor by asking us to help them. And when I say frugal innovation, what right do I have to win otherwise? There are lots more people with tons more money who can sign checks, but then often people who have too much money end up burning it and doing stupid things. We also say no quickly. Boss, if I'm not the right person for you, I'm not going to get an ego kick out of, yeah, let's meet for a coffee and stuff. And there's just too many predators in the startup ecosystem. I doubt very much if this will happen. This, of course, is every angel investor's dream. Find the next Uber and then buy a helicopter or a plane. No, kidding apart. I completely understand this, that most startups will fail, which is fine. But you know what? The trick is called asset allocation. And you should only invest money in startups, which money you can afford to lose without losing sleep over. So again, important to have realistic expectations. And I think this is important. People don't understand the difference between PE and VC and angels. And I'm not going to sit and teach you all this stuff. It's easy enough to figure out. You read it online. But these are the reasons why I became an angel investor. I took this from a book because it's so true. For my own benefit, yes, life is fun. I keep on having different things to do. I don't get bored. Have something interesting to talk at parties. Maybe because, whoa, cool. What are you doing? Wow, investing. But I don't attend parties. But anyway, for the benefit of the world, yes, of course. At some point, I'm going to be dead and gone. So what's the legacy you want to leave behind for the rest of the world? And that's something I learned from my parents. And for the entrepreneur's benefit, which means, yeah, I used to be young once upon a time. You may not appreciate that. And you will also be old sooner or later, hopefully. Better than the alternative, trust me. But anyway, so we think that if we can help you make fewer mistakes, that will have been well worth it. So again, this is mostly for angel investors. There are pros and cons. And guys, that's my last slide. If you notice, it said IVF specialist and angel investor. It's the best of both worlds. I continue seeing patients one-on-one, which still gives me a kick, when someone says, thank you so much, doctor, I would never have had a baby if it wasn't for you. Wow, no amount of money can ever beat that. But I'm not allergic to money, though. If I can get passive income from the work of my entrepreneurs, so much the better. Okay, guys, done. What's next?
Thank you so much, sir.
You guys can see my chat session. Sorry. Yeah, good. So now do I stop? What, do I stop screen sharing?
Yes, sir, you can stop screen sharing.
Stop screen sharing. Stop.
So for the participants, I'd like to ask you to write your questions in the chat box.
No. Actually, I should have insisted on this. Everyone needs to do either a video or a tweet or whatever, or LinkedIn, the longer the better personally, on what the point of this presentation was and what you learned. And that I'm insisting on. And we're giving you all the materials. I mean, it's there on the video. It's there on we're sending you the deck. So do whatever you like. But guys, don't be greedy and selfish. If you learn something, then help someone else to learn more. And the advantage of sharing what you learn with someone else is whatever I tell you will get reinforced and you'll remember it. So do me that favor at least.
And
okay.
So I'd like to remind you of the term medical pimping.
The what? Yes.
Medical pimping. So you said you'd explain that.
I didn't say that. I said I want someone else to tell me. No spoon feeding us. Figure out.
So we did have some answers in the chat box.
Tell me. I can see the chat now.
From Ayush Padani, we have telling juniors that they are worth nothing and they did nothing great by joining MBBS.
Yeah, and there's another great word you guys should read. It's called gaslighting. And what that means is effectively gaslighting. And what that means is you manipulate people psychologically to put them in their place. And अरे यार तू किस खेत की मूली है कुछ समझता नहीं है तुझको beat them down. And pimping is that effectively they won't ask you the 9 questions you know the answer to. They'll take perverse pride in asking that one question which you don't know the answer to. Just ego game. See how much smarter than I am. If you don't let anyone do all that. And anyone pimps you, it says a lot about them than about you. Unfortunately, you stick against a senior resident or a assistant professor who enjoys that. That's, tough luck. It won't last for more than 6 months. And I always tell people, the wisest 4 words in life are, this too will pass. Remember that during the good times. Remember that during the bad times also. I'm scrolling down. Please rename. Oh, sorry. Half developing. Good. Someone has a website. Nice. I'm very impressed. Why doesn't everyone have a website? What, Saryadipta, you should be setting an example to everyone else. Okay, let me see. I'll follow up after a week's time. I'll follow up after a week's time and see how many people put up a website. If no one does, तो I'll say, यार ये सब फुकट की बात है, मैं दोबारा फिर से ये सब नहीं करने वाला हूँ. Because सब लोगों को बड़बड़ सुनने की आदत है, करता तो कुछ है नहीं, and I have better things to do with my life. And you know, it literally takes you less than a day. There are free options. There's WordPress, whatever else. But anyway, let's see. But I don't benefit by your putting up a website. I'm telling you, do it for selfish reasons.
So,
oh wow, Druja said dead innovating. This is so impressive. You know, I know that all लोगों को बोलूँगा इसमें से hopefully 2 सुनेंगे, hopefully 1 साल के बाद 5 सुनेंगे. But you know, guys, anything I say, everyone takes with a large pinch of salt. Hey, you were born with a silver spoon. You know, you went to GS, all kinds of things. But you know, when people like you advise other people, you have far more credibility. I mean, you can say as a medical student, I read that book and it was great. Then other medical students are much more likely to do that. And you know, the more you help other people, the more the universe will help you. I believe in karma. Okay, you got that MBBS, the pimping thing. Asking terrible questions? No, asking terrible questions to juniors to put them in the place. Sometimes juniors also do that, don't they? Ask terrible questions to show everyone else how smart they are because they've read the book and other people haven't. Okay. Yeah, you know, you're not reading the right medical textbooks, trust me. There are some great medical textbooks. And a lot of medical textbooks have reinvented themselves. And there are lots of videos online and stuff. So, I mean, I think the human body is fascinating. If you're getting bored, then you just need to change where you're reading from. If there is no competition, can't mean a competition. Okay, let me ask you a simple question. If you know anything about neurosciences and cognitive sciences, where do ideas come from? They come from your brain. They don't spring full-blown like Athena did from her father's head in mythology, right? Everything which comes from your brain first had to get into your brain, correct? And the only way it can get into your brain is from the environment or from long memory, correct? Your environment is what you see, what you distinct, and that's why we encourage you, you know, go explore the world, travel, read lots of different books, meet lots of different people. And long-term memory is basically stuff you've read or experienced in other geographies or other domains, which then moves from your working memory to your long-term memory. And that's the only source. The magic source is that you combine them in ways which other people haven't, whatever it may be. But, you know, please don't be like GeoMeet or whatever else it was. You know, come on. You should copy, but you should evolve, adapt, be original. What works in Silicon Valley will not work in India. So there will always be competition. And let me tell you one thing. Sometimes the competition is whatever the person is doing at present. Of course, the person is doing something at present. So suppose you say, hey, there is no Italian restaurant in South Mumbai, for example. So there's no competition. But the competition is people don't eat Italian or whatever else. Or they maybe cook it at home. So you have to change your perspective. There's always competition. If there wasn't, I'd be so rich. Anyway, why do you believe so? What other kind of learning is there other than self-learning? First, you know, I mean, that entire model where the student was an empty vessel and the teacher came with all this yarn and poured it in and filled you with wisdom, forget it, doesn't happen. The only learning is self-learning. Now, you could choose to self-learn by inflicting hours torture like this lecture or in a classroom or whatever else, or you could figure out a book or a video or YouTube or a podcast and figure it out for yourself. The point is, do what excites and energizes you. Why are you not interested in invest in other startups like RainCan? I did invest in RainCan and then we exited. They had a different philosophy altogether. And you know, and they're doing extremely well. They got acquired by Big Basket. Good for them. How can I be right for everyone? And how can everyone be right for me? I only have one wife. I don't think I have the guts to have more. Sorry, kidding. Patience, Google everything. Yeah, what's wrong? You know, the right thing is patience, Google everything is an opportunity for you, boss. Create your own website. Become the authoritative source of information on ulcerative colitis in Hindi. तो कोई भी Google search करेगा on ulcerative colitis हिंदी, तेरी website आएगी. Great. तो वो सब पढ़ के आएंगे तो तेरा तो काम solve हो गया. Or the patient angry because he is so much gyani hai, he knows the sock, whatever else it may be. So I don't think that's a problem. And as if you guys don't Google every time you want to decide, which smartphone I want to buy. And for a stupid smartphone, if you do that, then why do you expect patients won't do it? Of course they will. And there's nothing wrong. And the reason people are going to Google is because we as doctors have let them down. If we provided all the information which they required, which is authentic, reliable, they trust us. They don't trust Dr. Google. But because we don't educate them, they're forced to go to Dr. Google and then go to all these quack websites like Practo and all these rubbish guys who all they want to do is make money. They don't care about their patients. That's because we've let our patients down. Remember, the word doctor is derived from the word dossier, which means to teach, which means to educate. And you can educate one at a time or educate in thousands. It's really up to you. We hope to see you back on LinkedIn. Right now I'm saying it's LinkedIn's loss, not mine. Many pointers. Oh yes, of course. I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book for explaining, what is an asset, what is a liability, and what passive income means. And I'm glad you guys are reading the book. Good for you. How to do networking and connect. The secret for networking is two things. One is attend 1 or 2 events and don't do more than that, because beyond the point you've reached the point of diminishing returns and makes you feel good, but often a lot of these are waste of money, but you should attend at least 1 or 2. But the trick is to get people to come to you and not go to them. And why will people come to you? Because you establish yourself as the domain expert. And how do you establish yourself as the domain expert? By publishing tons of stuff on how much you know about ulcerative colitis, why it's treated badly, why it's, or this great new medical device which you've created for treating whatever you have. Keep on doing it, 1 tweet at a time, 1 LinkedIn post at a time. At the end of a year, you'll have 400. So koi bhi Google karega, to they'll find out. And sooner or later, some investor will say, "Arey yaar, this guy seems to know quite a bit what he's talking about." Your questions, made a website. What do you mean fail? How can you ever fail? I think that in itself is flawed. I've given a lot of money to a lot of startups and all my money's gone down the drain. But I honestly learned more from the startups who failed, and especially from the entrepreneur who cheated me. Because now I will not allow another entrepreneur to cheat me. See clear. And the sooner you fail, the better, because then you usually with small amounts of money, and that has an amplification effect. So, and don't say that. Typically what will happen is someone else will do the app, or you may revisit the app after 5 years. How to reach out to you? Guys, if you need to ask that question, I'm not even bothering to answer it. So people used to do this. Send me your email. How do I do this? I said, what? Spoon feeding? I mean, that's a great hurdle, a great barrier. It's like my screening sieving mechanism. If someone needs to ask me how to reach out to me, means I definitely don't want them to reach out to me. How you learn for freelancing, finding 0 clients? Yeah, of course, because there are lots of freelancers. You need to not just learn how to build a website. You also need to learn how you can leverage. What makes you different? So tomorrow you went to all the doctors in private practice in your area and say, boss, तुम्हारे लिए website बनाऊंगा. ये दूसरे लोग गधे हैं जो website बनाते हैं. उनको medicine कुछ समझती नहीं है. So you know what I would do? I would target doctors who run clinics in, let's say, 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers. Then I would sort them out and I would say, this is the guy who's the richest, the top 10. Then I would actually create a dummy website for each of them. So let's say Dr. Desai is a famous pediatrician. I would create a dummy drdesai.in and I would email it to him, send it to him and ask his appointment. And then I would show Dr. Desai, look, this is what your website would look like. Imagine. I'd say, whoa, that's cool. Everyone has an ego. Everyone loves their name. Aisi banegi. And then I say, hey, you've already done all the hard work. Mujhe kya karna hai? The best thing is make a few mistakes. So he'll want them changed. So he'll take ownership. Arey yaar, I helped him to do a better job. Perfect. Little bit Machiavellian, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. And then he will want you to do it. So I think, there's always ways to succeed. Not bad. Someone is pitching. Rudra, good for you. I like the fact that he's selling. You should be selling all the time. Nothing wrong with that. Will the recording be available? It better be available. Yeah, and post it on YouTube or whatever. How much do you expect to see in an entrepreneur's bank's passbook? There is no magic number for that. I mean, not that I haven't funded pre-revenue startups. And boss, all rules are designed to be broken. I make the rules and I can break them. But I need to be able to justify why I'm breaking them. So honestly, there's no number. Whatever works for you is important. You've learned to build Android apps and you don't know what to do in a medical scenario. Look at all the other Android apps which are available for medical scenarios. How can I answer these questions for you? And you shouldn't even be asking me these questions. You should be, it's your job as an entrepreneur to figure out the answers. View or disorganized way. Yeah, people have been doing this. The first startup I funded was in, I think, before the .com boom. See how old I am. Maybe I shouldn't say stuff like that. Anyway, 1998, guys. And this was exactly this. Medical records are all over the place. No one knows anything. We need to put them in one place. Falana dana. Bombed completely. And even Google PHR, for example. So you should always learn for what stuff has failed in the past. The need is there. Everyone accepts that. And then, who's going to do it? Are patients going to do it? Ideally, yes, because they should own their data. But the reality is when you're healthy, you're not a patient and you don't care because you're immortal. Mujhe kuch hone nahi wala yaar, main to jeeunga. And then by the time you're a patient, you have so many other things to worry about that becomes a low priority. And then doctors have ego battles. Yeah, I don't trust those records and all kinds of things. It's not an easy problem. It needs to be done, but people have been trying to solve it and still not done it successfully. How can you sell healthcare ethically? Great question. Maybe you shouldn't use word sell again. And I think this is part of the problem because in our head, the moment you say market, the moment you say sell, we associate with mis-selling and being unethical. And actually, that's not true. A good salesman is someone who adds value to his customer's life. Plain and simple. Why does he do that? Because he knows that loyal customers are worth their weight in gold. That loyal customer will come back again when he falls sick, when his aunt falls sick, when his mother-in-law falls sick. And he will tell other patients about what a great doctor you are. So that's really, it's always been done. For 50 years, 100 years, it was the only way. It was called word of mouth marketing. Now the beauty is you can do the word of mouth marketing amplified 1,000-fold. And trust me, patients don't trust doctors, but they trust other patients. So huge opportunity. Explain your venture with look at the website, guys. It's called ikshealth.com. What attitude do investors have? Again, investors come in all shapes and sizes. Some will do it as charity, philanthropy, donation. Some will do it for profit. I back social enterprises because I actually think I'm providing them with financial capital. I think people have a soft corner for social impact entrepreneurs. Ki tum kiska bhala kar rahe ho. So, they're often willing to pay a premium or willing to give you a little more shoot, be more understanding. And I think you have human capital because the kind of employees you will attract for a social impact enterprise will not be the kind of guys who will walk away because someone gives them 10% more and 20% more. They believe in your mission, which is why they've joined your company, and that can be huge. Share the websites. That's all there on the presentation, and that's there on the video, and that's there on the listings. That's fine. Scalability, huge. I mean, there are so many patients and not enough doctors. And, if you do a good job, of course, there's enough scope. Should we start entrepreneurship? You should never need permission from anyone else for any of these answers to any of these questions. You should do what you think is right. How do I know anything about you to answer that question? And a lot of these things I'd strongly encourage do as a side gig or hustle or whatever else. Do it part-time. Go join a startup and say once a week I will come and work with you or whatever you want. And what scarcity of time? I'm confused. Because you are wasting your time in the canteen or what? Everyone has 24 hours in a day. How you choose your 24 hours is up to you. Think you're starting up? Yes. Never too early to start up. Do we need to make research? Yeah. So a lot of this stuff has been done. Research under electives, professors. But everyone games the system. People will do it because, hey, I need to do my thesis. Iska copy and paste karke karu. Or the professor will say, "Theek hai, I'm the editor on this journal. Mujhe kam se kam ek article milega." All kinds of things. How can you sell healthcare? Websites. क्या रुद्रा तू सबको डिस्काउंट देने वाला है क्या? वो भी लिखना. Anyone who comes to me as a SAMSA member gets a 50% discount. I think that's a great deal. Give me an example of role model. I was in there, fine, non-exception. Didn't like what medical field was. That's what I meant about positive deviance. अभी तुमको कीचड़ ही ढूंढने का है तो तुमको कीचड़ भी मिलेगा. तुमको कमल ढूंढने का है तो कमल भी मिलेगा. It's your worldview. So why do you go on and on about who does things wrong? Why don't you focus on people who are doing things right? And I think there are enough people doing things right. But trust me, people like Naresh Trehan and Apollo Hospital aren't in that category. I apologize about that. But anyway, what do you think? Of course, doctors should learn programming. Doctors should learn anything and everything. Why should they not? We're as smart as anyone else. How much you want to learn is up to you. I think every kid should know pseudocode. उतना तो आना ही चाहिए, समझना चाहिए, खुद कोड कर मत कर कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, लेकिन कोई दूसरा बताता है तो इतना तो समझाना चाहिए कि एल्गोरिथम क्या होता है, फ्लो चार्ट कैसे बनाते हैं, सूडो कोड कर, बाकी का इट डजंट मैटर. Yes, 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 yes. No, I'm not outsourcing my website development, Rudra. Thanks. What innovation you know? Oh, I think some of it is predictable. Patients won't need to travel to clinics. A lot of this stuff will happen online. You will get second opinions and teleconsultations and stuff. So, any tip for storytelling? Tell authentic stories. Tell stories which have moved you, which have impacted you. Those are the best stories to tell. And all of us have stories. The more the stories you tell, the better you will get at them. That I promise. MOOCs are a good, yes, of course, MOOCs are a great way. Anything which you choose to do for yourself is called self-learning, and anything you do with self-learning is great. I do lots of course on Udemy. I do Udemy because I'm conjuice. 500 rupees mein, itna khatakna nahi hai. Nahi to otherwise, we all know the dropout rate is very high. Okay, yaar, okay, chalo. 500 nahi hoga, nahi hoga. And they've done a good job. So I do lots of courses on Udemy. Did you think of becoming an investor? No. And where do I know what I'm going to be like 5 years from now? None of us knows. None of us has a crystal ball. I'll be very disappointed if I'm the same person I am in 2020. That I'll tell you for sure. So I hope to keep on reinventing myself. So no, I did, but I'm happy I did, and I'll be happy. Same startup, financial model. If your mind changes, okay, I'm glad someone is pitching. Boss, feel free to pitch. But there's a process we follow when we pitch. Read the website first, then see if you're the right investors for you, and then go and pitch. Okay, guys, any other questions or are we done?
Like I have a sort of pitch from Decoding COVID. So I'd like to sell you the idea of being a part of a jury.
Follow the process. So I tell people, no face-to-face. The trouble is you're a very charismatic person. I will fall in love with you and then like an idiot science check. Not good enough. I want to see how disciplined you are. So I need to see how well you can write down your ideas, how well you can articulate. And if you can't sell to me, you'll never be able to sell to a customer. So you do your homework. I'm a lazy guy, boss. To karne ke baad fir aake mujhko milna. I don't say no unless, there's a reason for me. If I say no, often so the right way to interpret a no is a not yet. And polish it.
So I was inviting you to be part of a jury for the final presentation.
No, please. No.
Okay.
I've been there, done that. I'm always happy to try everything once. Then I'm not so sure. Okay, guys, what else? Okay, thank you so much. You've been an attentive audience. So please share the links for the YouTube and stuff. And then let's see how much more we can disseminate, because the reality is not many people are going to be motivated enough to waste a Sunday morning, afternoon listening to me. But I still think that message needs to be repackaged, redone. I hope and pray someone will do this in Hindi, someone will do this in Marathi. It's extremely unfair that we don't do that. And honestly, if you guys don't do it, who else is going to do it? Thanks a lot for having me, guys. So now, what do I do? Hey, you need to help me out here. Leave.
You need
I click on leave, right?
Press yes, sir.
Okay, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming in and sparing your time and sharing this power-packed message with all the participants. I'm very sure that all the participants are really enthusiastic and energized by your session. And we'll be
वही तो रोना है ना कि 1 घंटे के लिए एनर्जी रहती है, वो देखना पड़ता है कि 1 हफ्ते के बाद कौन क्या करता है और 1 महीने के बाद कौन क्या करता है. So we'll wait and see.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much.
We'll be happy to see more medical innovations and medical entrepreneurs from medical students coming.
I really hope so.
We'll be happy to see that. Thank you so much.
And if you want to do that, then Krishna is the right person to contact. He's the domain expert. He's been doing it. His heart is in the right place. He's very, very good, and he exactly understands what you need to do. So you actually don't even need to reach out to me. And even if you did reach out to me, I'd mostly refer you to Krishna. Trust me about this. Okay, guys. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So for the participants, I'd like to share a video regarding SAMSA. So if everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Sure, Dipto.
So we at SAMSA are part of that entire teamwork collaborative that Sir had talked about. Our motto, service with a conscience and knowledge with a purpose, exemplifies what we do. We do things like health camps, as you can see. Health camps which involve everyone from first year students to interns and postgraduates. We do health camps almost everywhere in Kolkata, serving the community, which helps us to better our perspectives. We have workshops from our beloved professors. We have basic life support skill training like ECGs and CPR sessions. And last year we had a SAMSACon 2019, which was one of the game changers for East India conferences organized by students and for the students. So as you can see the pictures of the participants from SAMSACon, this was a Model Who session at SAMSACon 2019. We had planned the SAMSACon 2020, but unfortunately it didn't materialize. But that didn't stop us. We went ahead with our PP distribution initiatives, and as you can see, we helped a lot of colleges. Meanwhile, we had a series of exciting webinars for the medical students. We had sessions on work-life balance. We had sessions on NEET PG. We had quizzes. We had sessions on Plabinar. And that's pretty much it. So if you'd like to join SAMSA, you can go on to samsa.org.in. I repeat, samsa.org.in, as you can see on your screen. And if you're interested, please consider joining us. There will be a message for the finalists of the hackathon. So if all of them are there, I'll be sharing my screen. So hello, finalists. Can you see my screen? Can I see in the chat box below? Hackathon finalists, if you can see my screen.
We can see it, Shoujo. I think the chat box is disabled. So, but you can see it. You can continue.
So now for the prizes, I'm sure after about 72 hours of constant grinding, I think you all have wondered at one point what the prizes will be. So we are having 2 prizes per theme, that is total of 10 prizes. So per theme, we would be having the Best Innovation Award, which is rupees 4,000. And for the second prize, we would be having the Best Business Model, which would be for rupees 2,000. So that's it. We would move now to the final session, the final presentation session. That would be starting at about 2 p.m. We'll be sharing the links a few minutes before that. So if you could please leave, we'll be closing the room now. And well, best of luck, participants.
All the best, guys. All the best for your pitch.